I came to this film very much as a horror fan and very much as a jaded horror snob. If you think Mark Kermode is something of a snob when it comes to his horror films, he's got nothing on me, I'm afraid. I will only accept the very best of horror, which means that it's been something of a lean time of late. In fact, I would argue the past decade has been hideously lean when it comes to horror films. Good horror, anyway. They've been so few and far between. I struggle to even name any decent horror films that have come out of really the last decade and a bit, since the Blair Witch Project, which I thought was stunning. The Descent was a reasonable horror film. It was actually a very good horror film. I thought The Mist was quite good. There's not much else, really. Unless you count Drag Me to Hell, which doesn't really qualify as a serious horror film. Brilliant as it was, it's not what I'm talking about here. Drag Me to Hell is a horror comedy. So I expected great things of Paranormal Activity, considering the press surrounding it, considering the histrionics that people are having. As a result of it, apparently there are people who are having psychological issues, who are being consistently afraid for weeks after going to see this thing. So yeah, I was expecting great things, so I went in with a critical hat on, I'm afraid. And you know, I don't want to damn it with faint praise. I really don't, because it's a good film. It is a very, very good film. It's competent, it's well composed, there's some very decent subtle chills in it. It has a very good atmosphere, the build is very nice, very slow building, it takes time to establish character, and a very particular claustrophobic atmosphere, which is ironically the very antithesis of the Blair Witch Project, to which the film is inevitably going to be compared. The problem with Paranormal Activity is that it's a documentary horror, and the principal thing about documentary horror is you have to believe it. In order for the fear to work, you have to believe that what you're seeing is documentary footage. Now, the Blair Witch Project managed this through a variety of means. First of all, there was no particular script. The direction of the film and the acting was highly experimental. The actors were given outlines of their characters and then allowed to have free rein with them. So many of the reactions you see in the Blair Witch Project are actually quite naturalistic. And the lines are very naturalistic as well. You can definitely believe, as many people did, and many people still do, that the portions of the Blair Witch Project are real footage. They're not. I mean, it's entirely contrived, and this is another means by which the filmmakers created that sense of ambiguity that's so unsettling. They actually marketed it as if it were real at the time, to the extent whereby they made documentaries about the phenomena of the missing film students, and set up a website, and a false police investigation, and all manner of things. Paranormal Activity does not achieve the same sense of verisimilitude, and the reason it doesn't is because there is obviously a script. As a result, the characters and narrative, they feel written, and the lines feel written as well. They feel more like something that comes from a more traditional horror film like The Shining, or something to that effect. Something which has narrative coherency in the way real life doesn't, and that doesn't work for it. I didn't believe a second of this film, I'm afraid, which is a shame, because that's what docu-horror relies on. Don't get me wrong, there are moments of it that are really good, really subtle, tiny, tiny little drip feeds of dread that are the antithesis of shite like Saw and Hostel and so on and so forth, the gornography stuff. I'll be doing a review of Saw, by the way, because no, it's unfair to call it shite. It's not. It's a very well put together film, but I don't understand the appeal of it. I don't understand why it's become so popular, because it's not something we haven't seen before, and it's not that great a film. It's not that original a film in any particular way. But the problem is, because you don't believe what you're seeing is documentary footage as it's been advertised, the horror is diluted tremendously. For me, anyway, I just didn't find it frightening. There are some very nice set-piece moments. The timing is superb. One thing I will say about the film is that the timing of it is beautiful. It's very well orchestrated, and considering the budget, which was $15,000, which is bugger all, that's even cheaper than the Blair Witch Project, and the fact that it is basically an amateur production, it's amazingly polished. It really is an incredible piece of work, given that. But there is a point about 20 minutes from the end where it goes tits up for me. There's something that, I don't want to give too much away, but there's something that happens that's far too visual and far too overt. Up until that point, it's very much like the Blair Witch Project in that there's ambiguity. You don't know whether what's happening is supernatural or whether it's something psychological, or whether it's just someone fucking about with the people, with the protagonists. But there is something that happens that makes it overt. It is evidently supernatural, and that ruins it. It's tonally wrong with the rest of the film, with the subtlety that has pervaded up to that point, and that completely ruined it for me. From that point on, I couldn't take the film seriously, and the ending is diabolical, and not in a good way. The ending is just, it's far too overt, and it stinks of mainstream cinema, PG-13 mainstream horror cinema. It was terrible, predictable conclusion. It just, so much so I couldn't prevent myself, when the last frame rolled, I couldn't prevent myself from actually going, oh, in the cinema. I couldn't help it, because it destroys the rest of the film. It's a very, very poor ending, and apparently this is a ramped down version from the original ending. From what I've heard of the original ending sucked ass. This one is not good, but it's certainly better than what the original ending was. It needed to be braver, it needed to maintain the subtlety and the ambiguity, but I imagine the mainstream audience, imagine if it did, it wouldn't have even got a mainstream release. It would have been something that would have become infamous slowly, perhaps on a DVD release or on the internet or whatever, which is a great shame, because there are moments of brilliance, there are moments that are really creepy. And it's when things happen that are completely ambiguous, where you're wondering, well, where you're trying to make justifications in your mind. How did that happen? Why did that happen? How could that have possibly occurred? But the fact that it provides answers, that it say, unlike the Blair Witch Project, which leaves the ambiguity completely open for you, this gives you an answer gift wrapped at the end of the film and says, this is what is happening. And this is something I dislike in horror cinema intensely. It's something I dislike in cinema, full stop, actually. I'm not fond of coherent endings that tie everything up and give it to you, because it's a way of absolving the audience of responsibility. If things are left flailing open slightly and done so in a clever manner, then the film will go away with the audience. It will sustain in their minds, because they will be thinking, they will be trying to come up with justifications and for resolutions of their own, and also for interpretations of significance. And this is something that I really like in narratives. I like narratives that are ass backwards and incoherent. It's stuff like Quentin Tarantino films. The way Quentin Tarantino structures the narratives in his films like Pulp Fiction, where you get the ending at the beginning and then you get little sub-narratives that are not narratively coherent, but which come at you in bits and pieces, and it's up to you to put together the overarching narrative. I really like that. But it's something that Paranormal Activity sadly fails on. there is a point about a couple of minutes before the final scene where it could have ended and it would have been better. But it doesn't. It continues that just a little bit too long. And it ruins it. It completely ruins it. That said, it is a good film. It's a very well put together horror film, and I would advise going to see it, definitely. It's just not what it's being advertised as.